My name is Brianna Stennett, and I am pitching a TV series idea for my writing for publication class. The TV series I have is called The Other Side. I decided on this title because it's about a man and a woman. I wouldn't call him a man, a young girl that gets married to an older guy. She just graduated high school. She thinks she's in love. He has the occasional drink, but it's nothing major, normal 20-year-old behavior. So, the first episode would be called True Love. This is where they get married. She just graduated high school, so she's ready to start her life and get out there and grow up with her new husband. So they go on their honeymoon and they have a great time and everything's fine. They're in love, and when you're on your honeymoon, most of the time you drink. Well, he drinks a little more than she's used to. She's never seen him this drunk before. He's cussing at everyone and acting a fool, and this is the first time that he puts his hand on her. He pushes her into a wall, which it doesn't do any major damage, but it starts to set in fear for her. After this will be the second episode. It'll be called Too Good to Be True. This is where they come home from their honeymoon. They moved a few towns over from her family to try to have their privacy. They move into their new home. He starts staying out later and later every weekend, doesn't come home when he says he's going to come home. He drinks more often than she's used to or that she's ever seen. They've never lived together, so she didn't really know what he did when she wasn't around, but it's just getting worse and worse. And he comes home drunk and cussing at her, and you see in this episode that he starts to get really physical and starts hitting her. He doesn't do it every day, but he does it more times than not. The third episode would be called A Second Chance. He starts getting more aggressive and hitting her more often, more times than she wants to deal with. And she starts having to wear long sleeves and pants every day with no holes to try to cover all the bruises he's left on her, because he's getting more and more aggressive. So the bruises don't even have time to heal before she has new bruises. And one night he comes home so drunk he can barely stand up and starts throwing empty bottles that he's drank at her, trying to hurt her. And the next day he realizes what he's done, and he's very manipulative and brings her flowers and apologizes and convinces her to stay with him anyways. The fourth episode would be called Party of Three. This is where she finds out she's pregnant for the first time. She tells him one night, he's not drunk, but he still gets angry because he's not ready for kids. So he goes out and goes drinking, and he comes back home and demands her to have an abortion, but she refuses. This is her first child. This is why she got married, because she wants to have children. And so he comes home and starts beating her and kicking her in the stomach, trying to hurt the baby. And she finally talks him into just leaving her alone and locks herself in the bedroom for the rest of the night. The next episode would be called I Forgive You. She goes to her parents' house to try to get away from him because she can't take the beating anymore. She's trying to protect her baby. Like I said earlier, he's very manipulative. So he talks her into coming back home. He's really nice and sober for a few months, maybe a little longer. He buys her gifts and waits on her hand and foot. And at the end of this episode, you see it get a lot worse than it was before. The next episode would be called Help Me. He beats her so bad that she has to go to the hospital. She feels like she could die because she's been beaten so bad, and she goes to make sure that the baby's okay and that she's okay and that she doesn't have any head trauma or anything. And they leave the hospital and she's fine. The baby's fine. She's just really shaken up at this point. And this is the last straw for her. She decides she's ready to file for a divorce. That's how that episode would end. The next one would be called He's Gone, because over the past few years, he's gotten arrested many times for DUIs and public drunkenness and misdemeanor crimes and such, you know, like a bad boy status. He gets arrested after she comes back from the hospital for selling drugs and having drugs on him over the misdemeanor limit. So he gets arrested and he's sentenced to 10 years in prison with no parole option. This is great for her because she can finally get away from him, you know. The divorce papers are signed. She's breaking away. She can finally be on her own and be happy. She puts out a restraining order even though he's in jail, just for future references. She moves back home. She has her own house, but she moves in the same town as her parents so she can feel more protected that way. That episode would end by her finding out the gender of her baby is a girl, and she names her Grace because the baby is her saving grace. If it wasn't for the child, she might have stayed in an abusive relationship and never had a reason to leave. And I named it the series The Other Side because at the end she can see the other side. She can see the light. She can see the goodness, that there's more to life than just being beaten. Thank you.